On the users of Facebook group, we've got this little knob here someone was trying to recreate. Now, typically I would avoid trying to recreate something like this using just geometry. We'd probably want it, since this looks like it's a cabinet knob, we'd probably want to do something in terms of just texturing this section to make it look like it's 3D geometry. But I will show you how you can do this using 3D geometry, and if I'm feeling compelled at the end of that part, maybe I will show you how to do this with texture as well. So let's just jump into this. Now, I think for the most part, I'm going to be doing this lower section in an elevation. The middle section will be separate, and then the top section looks like it's maybe just a cylinder, and that part's pretty easy to do. So let's start with this middle section, which is probably the complicated section for this user. So I'm going to get in here, and I'm just going to draw out um, I'm going to draw out a circle first, and I'm going to use the circle about center tool. And I'm not really worried about scale. I can rescale this as I need to. The next thing that I want to look at here is, if we go look at this, it looks like this is faceted almost, and we could use the built-in symbol smoothing within Chief Architect to make this look like it's got more of a smooth edge as it comes in and out on this ribbing, right? So maybe it's just that I need to make a subtraction here from a center circle. So looks like I could do 1, 2, 3 sides times 2. So if I use the make polygon tool, then I can say 3 sides times 2 is 6 sides. There we go. Not worried about the radius because I'll probably resize this. Maybe we'll just call it 24 inches or something like that. Look at that. That's what it did, right? So that's actually perfect. If we go back and study this again, just real quick. Okay, I got a quick look. This essentially is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be subtracting in this direction. So let me concentrically resize this to what I think is correct. Something like that, right? Maybe something like that. And then I want to draw a couple of things that I call inference lines. So that's going to make it so that I can snap to these lines very easily, or center about, or reflect about, something like that. Okay. And then let me go ahead and join these lines. So I'm going to take this line, and we can just use this intersect join two lines, hover over the second line, and it joins it in the middle. And then I'm going to place a point. And so that's in the CAD menu, place point. Once I've done that, we can get into that edit menu, and under the edit menu, under behaviors, we can rotate, resize about that current point. So I'll take this guy right here, I'll center him up just like that. And then I'm going to make a bunch of copies and distribute it around here. All right, so now I think those copies, let's just take a little trial run here. I'm going to draw out a line here, and then I'm going to say maybe my next copy is going to be about here, something like that. So I could take the angular dimension tool and kind of figure out that's 8.65 degrees. So that I've got rotate about a given point turned on right now. We've got a point in the center of the circle. If I choose multiple copy and then change the multiple copy interval, I can come in here and change offset between copies when dragging. And I can change this degree to that 8.65 if I want. Let's just call it an even 9 degrees. Another thing we could do is, if we're thinking about this correctly, we need something that, divides into 360 degrees. That's a little bit too much math for me. I don't really feel like doing that, but we know that 9 goes into 360. Just came up with that on the top of my head, right? I'm pretty good at math sometimes. So look at this. When I drag out, what does it do? Well, it doesn't do the right thing, right? It's just dragging copies out. What I need to do is hover over this edit handle, and now when I drag out, it's making those copies. Look at that. Cool, right? And those are even copies. Very cool. So what do I do next? I can select this circle. Let me get rid of my inference lines real quick. Select this major circle, right? And I think that I can convert this to a polyline. So if we convert curve to polyline in this case, then it's going to ask us how many sides do we want for that polyline? 44, maybe, something like that. That's pretty good. Then I can use, once I've converted that, I can use the fence select tool. That selects all of those little guys right there. And then what am I going to do? I want to subtract those from the major. So how do we do that? That's going to be challenging. We're going to have to figure out a way to do this. Because you almost want to union these in a way so that you could subtract them from this major part. Or you could take this circle together with all those. Maybe we can get intersected. No, that didn't help us out at all, did it? Let's see. I need a way to actually connect these two. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a circle based on this circle, and it's going to be just a little bit wider. And then I'm going to take this intersection, duplicate it, paste hold the position. I'm going to take this outer ring and subtract the inner ring. Okay. Now I want to use that to fence select that ring as well, and union it. Now we've got one, what looks like a gear wheel, if you will. Now I need that circle back. It seems I did something wrong and I deleted it by accident, but here we go. Through that circle back, let's convert that back to that 44 sides. And now I should be able to subtract this guy, leaving me with what looks like a gear icon. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Let's take this, convert it, turn it into a 3D solid. Just going to kind of eyeball this based on that knob. All right, so maybe it's got a height of double that height, something like that. Yeah, more or less. And then on top of that, we just put in a cylinder and we'll pull in a little cross-section view and we're doing a little tapered section. Now, if you're unfamiliar, let's do the tapered section. So I'm going to kind of pull this cross-section back. I'm going to stop it right at that center line. Doesn't really matter, actually. Just using this as a reference. So we lift this up in this view. And then all I'm going to do is kind of pick out that center point. So I'll snap to the very edge here. Again, I'm just using the line tool to use as a reference, right? So bring this up, another line, I'll pick up that midpoint or center line snap. Here we go. And so from here, kind of just snap to this guy, come out here. Maybe we'll continue this line down. And I think it was doing kind of an arc, but we're going to avoid the arc if we can. We're going to just let symbol smoothing take hold. So we're just going to do a bunch of little segments here to get that look going. Something like that. We'll extend this piece out, use those join two lines, use that join two line again, or actually just close this poly. Bam. So from here, and let me just kind of clean this up a little bit, we can convert this. First of all, I'm going to simplify that polyline that got rid of the breaks here. And then convert this, and I'm going to convert it to a face. All right, and there's my face. Now from this point, I'm going to click on this edit handle, and I'm going to use the revolve object. And we're going to revolve in the Z-axis. You notice here at the bottom of the screen, that's the Z-axis. We want to spin around that axis, right, as if it was a spindle. So there's that Z direction, Z-axis. We're going to spin it 360 degrees. Bam. That'll get us this right there. Isn't that cool? Right? And I mean, since we're here, it'd be really easy for me to pick up that midpoint again. So here's that midpoint again. I could just draw out some new polylines. So I could just draw this out if I wanted to. Get a little detailed here. Kind of come in. Right? Bring this back. Close that polyline. Convert it to a face again. Right? Press OK. Take this edge right here and then revolve. Same thing. Now notice it jumped up a little bit. There's a little bit of a glitch in Chief Architect. If you have your solids by default set to reference a finished floor, that's what this glitch is. If you change it to reference an absolute location, then it doesn't do this little funny glitch. So I want to move this back down, but I might need to pick up that center line to do this. And in the center, there we go. And so then I could take these three objects, right? These three items and convert the selected to a symbol. It's like this, okay? So this is going to become, let's see, what does hardware become? Well, hardware is hardware. So let's choose the hardware class. We can add to library if we want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to show advanced option. Let me press OK. And here's where I can resize this object. Now, I got some funny things going on here because I didn't align this, right, in the plan view. So we need to make sure that all these are aligned, right? So I was drawing over here. I'm going to switch to a contained selection mode so I can draw a marquee over this whole thing. And maybe we can center up on this. It's going to be a little bit challenging without some kind of line to represent the center of this guy, right? So I drew that line, grab this, center it up. That should be correct now. Now I can select this whole assembly, hopefully. Just want to make sure we don't have anything else in here like the cross section. That's what we were just selecting as well. So select that whole assembly, convert selected to symbol, show advanced option. Let's press OK. And here's where we might figure out if we retain the aspect ratio, we can resize the height of this down to whatever it's going to be. Maybe it's 2 inches, right? So then over here on the just the preview window here, we could always just hit this fill window button there, and that's going to show us the preview of this. Very cool. So that's it. That's our hardware symbol. You might need to rotate this, right? So we get into 3D panel, axis of rotation. This might need to get rotated about the X axis, right? So we might need to rotate this 90 degrees about the X axis so that looks more like a cabinet knob. But that should be the end of that part. Now let's see, am I feeling generous? Do I feel like doing the video where we do this just without geometry? Well, let me place this real quick and get an idea of just how many faces we have. We have 3,600 faces. That's actually not terrible. That's actually pretty good. You know, we need a little bit of cleanup here. That's my fault. I need to pay a little more attention, but yeah, 3,600 faces, not that bad. And if we kick the smoothing up to like, I don't know, 140 degrees or something like that, we're going to see some sections kind of naturally smooth out in that middle section there. That's pretty cool, right? Now, do keep in mind, this is trying to smooth some vectors on the top here. If we set this back to 0, we're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. It's smoothing these sections right here, right? So we switch this back to like maybe 110, something like that. You want to do it just so that this ribbing is smooth, but that top doesn't have this weird shadowing. You really want a perfect symbol. So you can kind of start playing with these numbers. There we go. That got rid of the top shadowing, and we still have some smoothing in this center section. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's see. Now, I think I'm going to keep the next part of this for a membership area where we use some kind of advanced modeling and UV mapping, if you will, to make it so that we've got that ribbing and it's just done with material itself. So I think that was a good lesson for today. If you like this video, you know what? You can send me really small donations on YouTube. I don't usually ask for that stuff, but I'll throw it out there. It's helpful. I always appreciate it. I'll go buy a coffee. So thank you. See you again.